thought you were going to play the tracks. That's why.
Nope.
No.
So this gets placed at the beginning of ours because it's being recorded.
Okay, since it's live there. Well, hello, everyone. Hopefully you're enjoying our little antics here.
Yes, this is our first time broadcasting live. We're fairly new at this, but we're giving it a shot here with Spreaker.
Let's see. Welcome to Living a Sex Positive Life. Again, we apologize for the delays and what's going on. First time doing live, but hopefully you've already heard our first two episodes, our intro on who we are and definitions and boundaries. And if you have any suggestions for future shows, please feel free to make them. So we will be willing to talk about any topic about sex. And today we decided to talk about how to live a sex positive life, considering that is what we are called, our blog, our podcast now, what it means to be a sex positive person. For me, in my transitions, it's always been open, honest, non-judgmental, accepting of everyone's sexual preference and sexuality based on gender, kinks, whatever, and also open communication, consent, and compromise of sex. I mean, you don't need to be very sexually active to be sex positive. You can just respect and say, hey, that's what you like. You like chocolate, I like vanilla, and we'll have a nice day. But what's your thoughts on it, hubby?
Well, I had to do a little bit more research on this. You're much more voiced in there, and I found some very interesting definitions.
Mm-hmm.
So I found one that was very simple. It means having or promoting an open, tolerant, and progressive attitude towards sex and sexuality. So that's very, very general to start off with. But I found little parts as I started reading more and more definitions. Stuff like if you're sex positive, you obviously advocate sex education. Okay, and that's of all ages. I found another great one that said being sex positive means to have no moral or ethical judgment on any consensual acts of sex or masturbation.
Two consenting adults.
Yes, two big consenting adults.
Yeah, we're not bringing the little pedophiles or child predators, all those guys. Yeah.
But it is the accepting of consenting sex, whatever that may be, whether that's heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, transgender, and then it also goes across the poly, swapping, whatever, open relationship and BDSM community. So it's a very umbrella term. Is what I found in my research here. Even being asexual, because there's a time, obviously for sex is healthy, but sometimes abstinence, for whether it be physical or emotional reasons, is the healthy thing to do.
True. Or like in Zoolander 2, you could be aw. So definitely check out, if you're a big Benedict Cumberbatch fan, you would love him as aw in Zoolander 2, where he was actually able to legalize marrying yourself. So mono marriage, because he's odd.
And you just exposed me to this, so I'll explain just a little. All is basically a model played by Cumberbatch, who basically considers himself everything. And they're trying to figure out, well, what's between the legs is what they're going for. And he's like, I am all.
Are you a hot dog or a bun? I am all. And that's the prime example right there of being sex positive, because you're not judging what gender you are. You're accepting. It's like, okay, that's your choice. And some people just have a difficult time accepting people because of their gender choices. I mean, come on. What was it? Last year's North Carolina ban on transgender bathrooms? Come on, give me a break here.
Yeah.
That was not very sex positive at all.
It did, and I do have friends up there, and I felt sorry for them because they were rather embarrassed that their state did that. Um, but I read something about, didn't that state get on like some travel advisory list?
And the European Travel Advisory List actually said warning gay and lesbian, bisexual, transgender, the LGBT community, to not travel to North Carolina because it was dangerous for their safety because of this law.
Wow. Wow. So that this made like huge worldwide news, you know? It wasn't just a local thing. That was pretty amazing.
But North Carolina was having a lot of challenges last year too, anyways, because remember, they said that they were banning all online pornography, any kind of pornography on there.
I don't even...
No. Now I remember what happened. Because of the transgender bathroom law, one of the biggest online porn websites blocked all access to North Carolina.
Yes, I do recall that.
Yes, I recall. That's what made me remember, because it was hysterical, because I was like, wait a minute, you can't see porn because of the transgender. And you know how quickly they repealed that law so that way they could get their porn? It was the funniest thing.
I don't know. I would love to have seen... from the porn sites, of course, what types of porn is getting viewed in North Carolina?
LGBT. It was hysterical. I actually had, unfortunately, I didn't really remember to bring the stats, but I did have the stats from last year. It was very hysterical what happened there, you know. And that's a prime example of not being sex positive. You go looking for sex somewhere else because you're so, what do you call that word?
Repressed?
Thank you, repressed. Sexually repressed from knowledge to know what is good or bad, you know. And I was actually pretty amazed with the ABC television show Blackish, because they like to push the envelopes a lot of times, and they actually had a show a couple weeks ago, and you could just go on abc.com or hulu.com to watch the episode, where they found out that their daughter was watching porn, and they showed the correct, you know, motion, that the parents freaked out, they slammed the computer, they yelled and screamed at the kid, and the kid was like, what the heck did I do? And they send her to a room, and then they were like saying, okay, you know, and of course the parents had their talk, and they were like, what are we saying? We weren't ready for this. And when they finally calmed down and got their heads on straight, they found out everyone at her daughter's school was talking about sex. And the only way these kids were finding out about the information was going online and looking at porn. And what they discuss in the episode, which kudos for ABC in doing this, since it is a division of the Walt Disney World Company, they told the daughter, it's like, look, porn is not reality. It's actors and actresses filming out a script. None of that, you know, is real. You could, you know, in the emotions, because sometimes it can be dangerous. I mean, we've seen some stuff that were like, huh? Are you a contortionist? Or don't you need lube? Or how could that be? You know, things of that nature. But ABC did a great job explaining that, so that way more parents could get a better idea of how to talk to their kids about it. And kind of to semi-plug me in, here in Orlando, Playground Magazine is a local magazine for parents and children and activities, and they actually published my article, When is a Good Time to Talk About Sex? What is the age-appropriate sex? And it breaks it down to the various different ages and resources there. I also have it posted on my Living a Sex Positive Life blog, with links to the resources and books to purchase in Amazon. And that also helps contribute and help support this show for further ventures.
Well, I do want to add something in there about porn. Mm-hmm. Okay, porn definitely is not sex. Talking to your kids about porn is definitely not easy. Know that firsthand. But porn can be an additive to sex. Mm-hmm. It can be something to watch to get you sexy, to get you aroused. It's something you can watch with your partner or partners. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But I've had the opportunity to talk with a few adult actresses, and one particular did anal fisting scenes. Mm-hmm. And one of the things she expressed, which made the entire room laugh, was someone asked, well, how do you make sure, because you're being filmed, there's 6 to 8 other people, maybe more, in the room watching you do this. You got the lighting guy, you got the sounding guy. How do you make sure you don't have, accidents? Mm-hmm. And this really made it that porn is work. She says, if you're doing an anal scene, you don't eat 24 hours before. So, she had shown a picture of one of her movies and basically said, do you see that picture over there? I'm starving, I'm freezing, and I just want to go home, and I'm going to put a smile on my face and act as sexy as possible to get this scene done before I run over and have someone put a blanket on me.
Or shove a burger down my throat once the scene is over. I laugh so hard. I'm like, oh my God.
So, again, it's work to get that produced, to do that. It's sexual, but it's not sex. Don't go ahead and expect, whether you're having sex for the first time, that it's going to be porn, or if you go out, experience any type of alternative lifestyle, mm-hmm. Specifically like an orgy scene, that it's going to be like the movie. All those people know what they're doing. 12 people in an orgy scene, they're scripted. They know what they're doing. This is the ballet dance of sex. You get 12 people in a room, you ever try to say goodbye quick? People are trying to shake the wrong hands, which it's not organized. And it's not that way in reality.
Right. And just people don't realize there's also fluffers. There's other people to help with the lube or condoms or whatever they need to make the scenes. And then the magic of video editing makes it look so like, yes, this was hot. And you're like, no, it wasn't. And, adult film stars are always, treated with no respect from the outside world due to the fact that what they do. But hey, they put a lot of effort studying those lines, grant you. Some of those, other, the online stuff, the webcams, yeah, not so much, but the Wickeds, movies, the, what's the other
The
one?
professional, not the amateur.
Amateurs, yeah. They put a lot in there, and they're business people, and they're pretty smart. And they go around and teaching sex positive too, that, just because we're in the industry, you still need to learn how to communicate, how to have consent with each other, and also just willing to experiment sexually, to find out, pushing the envelope, because you can't always have the same mundane thing. It's just like food. You can't have the same kind of pizza. I mean, between me and my husband, we always argue which one's better, Chicago or New York,
New York.
Deep dish.
Well, one thing I want to add is being sex positive is not like a switch. It's not anything you turn on and say, hey, today I'm sex positive. It's an ongoing action. And one of the things is I thought I was. And I do try to be sex positive. But sometimes you get taken off guard by stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I had a friend I hadn't seen in a while. And one day he comes up to me and I said, hey, how's it doing? I put out my hand. We shook. We started talking. And he says, oh, well, I guess you heard I no longer go by, and he gave a male name that I know him as. I'm now going by this. Mm-hmm. And I looked up and, okay, I'm colorblind. So I don't notice sometimes makeup on people. And he had makeup on. And when he said, I go by Sally, mm-hmm. I just kind of looked at him and said, oh, okay. And I just looked for a few minutes, and I know I had that blank stare on my face. Yeah. And it wasn't in any way judgment.
Right.
It's just that it didn't occur to me what he was saying, and I hadn't heard through the grapevine. It seems like everyone else has, but that he was going through hormone treatment, and it was becoming that. So I was taken off guard by it. It wasn't any after I did it. I said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I just realized what you were saying." That wasn't a look of fear or anything. It was a look of I didn't understand what you were saying, as opposed to there was no judgment there. But it's an ongoing thing. Being sex positive it is a struggle.
It is, because you also have to remember, even with the pronouns. And I had one challenge similar to your story, but a little bit different, was that I knew someone one way, female, and then they transition over to male, and their pronouns change, and I was still used to referring them to their female pronouns, and they corrected me, and I said, I am super sorry. I am still learning. I did not mean to offend you. And gratefully, the person did not get upset with me, because I was genuinely, authentically like, oh shit, I fucked up. But I didn't mean to on purpose, because I didn't know. And a lot of the conferences we've been going to, they specifically ask, when you get your badge, what is the pronoun you choose to be called or referred to? And sometimes, again, still a learning process for me, and I've been doing this for like 4 years, attending these conferences. I still mess up and call them by, gender specific, either male or female, when they prefer pronouns, you, them, they, their,
And it's complicated, and it lets in that pause, and then there, help me here, and you don't want to do that too much, but I've done that to someone where I'm like, I forgot what they wanted to be called, because I know in looking at them, I wanted to call them one way. Anyway, it definitely has become a more complicated world than it was.
Right, because, again, sex positive, it's very challenging to figure out exactly what is your definition of sex positive versus my definition of sex positive, and where do we meet? Because even so, there's the disabilities, older generations about having sex, so where do you fall, and it's interesting, but also, even being a sex positive parent, some people just don't understand what does it entail. Well, first off, it entails telling your kids, it's like, masturbation's okay, but you do it in private. Don't do it on the kitchen table.
Well, in growing up, and I won't even say that, even for adults, there's a fine line, and a lot of it does come from social judgment, of what is acceptable. And I'll just take the situation of starting a new relationship. And what's worse is, and it's different for not alternative relationships, but for a vanilla relationship, you start a relationship with someone, you start talking, that sex talk doesn't come out first in the beginning. So when it gets in there, it's the whole learning experience of what are they like, what are they into, if they're sex positive, yes, they'll at least be open to hear stuff, hopefully. But being sex positive, for me, it's, the accepting of it, of other people's choices as far as sexuality, but not necessarily participating in it. I was at a club recently, and I saw some BDSM activity, and I'm always good up for a little spanking, but this went a lot further than that. This went to blood drawing. And for me, that was, it's nothing that, stimulates me. Now, it's something someone else likes, the people who did it liked, but it's one of those, I'm trying to be sex positive, I'm trying to say go for it, and I'm still trying to stay far enough back that I don't get a drop of blood on me. So, but sex positive has definitely become mainstream. One of the major colleges down here had we just founded a sex positive week last week. We're hoping they're going to have it this week. Last year. Last year.
Yeah.
And to see it so mainstream on a major college's webpage of what is sex positive and the goals of the sex positive week, raising awareness, stressing inclusion of different sexualities, sexual choices. That's that's very mainstream.
Right, but we're in Orlando, Florida, so for us that's like wow, groundbreaking. But several colleges in the States, because I know several, even the adult film stars go do presentations at Sex Week at colleges, that they dedicate a full week of sex education on college campus, especially for rape, um, safety with the STDs, AIDS, HIV, everything that's all sexual wellness, as we call it. So that way they know what their rights are, what they deserve, how to enjoy it, the intimacy part. And I think what happens a lot in the conversations is intimacy is not really brought into sex education in general. It's not until you become sex positive there, because feeling that closeness of a person, it can be complicated there, because you don't know, because sex can be emotionally and physically, psychological and physically intense at times, but like for some people, well, I'm a prime example of that. It's just like sex is sex, love is love. I never had all three of them at once until I met my husband. That was one of those things that, yeah, it's a good time. That's it. Thanks. Have a nice day. Kind of deal. But my challenge was the intimacy. I could be the perfect mistress. I could be the perfect, girlfriend experience. But when it came to actually being in love and during sex, it was like, what's that? But at the same extreme, I've seen people that automatically have emotions and sex, boom, right away. That's it. There's no lack of, and it's just like when they have sex. And I know, for example, one of a very, very close personal friend of mine, her daughter was being sexually abused by her father, that the mother never really got therapy for her. And when she had her first sexual encounter, she just automatically related love. And it was almost like instant marriage. And she was 18 at the time. And the guy that she was with was like, oh, no. This is just sex. That's it. Poor girl got pushed over and didn't end well. So that was one of those, like, she automatically connected love and sex. That's it. That's what it means to be in love.
And a lot of the vanilla community does that. They not well. It's changed.
Even in alternative lifestyles there, because I've heard some horror stories about some poly people and swingers, and not so much the BDSM, because I don't think they're. But yeah, I haven't heard BDSM horror stories. But yeah, vanilla, swingers, polys, yeah.
Well, relationships and intimacy are very complex. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I will say from all my experiences, the best sex is with emotion. Mm-hmm. That is definitely the pinnacle of it all. But there can be emotion without sex, obviously. But there can be sex without emotions. And that's what a lot of people, maybe not a lot, but that's what some people have issues with. They can't separate the two. They feel that if they need to be in love in order to have sex with someone, and again, I know that's, I'm picturing 1950s, Leave It to Beaver, this is what you do. And obviously the 70s changed that. But over time, even when we're young, society push us sex as being a negative thing, and you only do it with someone you're in love with. It's like Danger Will Robinson. You don't do that unless this is in place first. And it's like, as a member of the alternative lifestyle community, if you can separate the two truly, sex is sex, love is love. If you can get both in the same place, fantastic. It gets better. But sex can be on its own. It can be an act. Mm-hmm. So, excuse me. The other things I'm seeing as a thread with sex positive is obviously the stress on education, mm-hmm. The stress on consent. Consent is a very big thing, that both parties are consensual, and again, consent whether it be verbal or nonverbal, is permission. It's an agreement to have that. Mm-hmm. We're going back to when I was in college, no means no, which they still teach in some places, which obviously, oh, no does mean no. It was just that catchphrase that we caught, sort of like, crack is whack from the 80s, which...
God rest her soul. Okay, unfortunately she did die from crack, but yeah, rest her soul there. But, it was meant to be there. But even so, with the whole AIDS back in the 80s till now, I mean, there's still a lot of judgment for people who are trying to be, proactive by taking certain medications to not contract the disease. And trying to find that information, all the PrEP stuff, you do still have to go to the LGBT community centers to find that out. But I don't see that happening in a heterosexual kind of, what do you call it, medical team there, or doctor's office. That's what I was trying to say there, because, they're still conservative.
Okay, and to back it up there, you mentioned the word PrEP. Mm-hmm. So just for our viewers, for our listeners, I forget we're not viewing, we're listening, say what that is. PrEP is usually a term for a drug. The brand name is Truvada. And what it is a daily pill you take, which has minimal side effects to none, which almost 99.99% prevents the transmission of HIV. And this study was done, I think so far there have been 2 reported cases of men on the drug who have contracted HIV anyway. But there are worldwide millions of people on this drug, and they did a study for 2 years where one of a relationship, one partner was HIV positive and one partner was HIV negative. And they removed those who were, I don't know if they removed those who were on medication or not as far as the HIV partner. But during the study, there was absolutely 0 cases of transmission where it was taken on a regular basis. Now, what I'm amazed about is, again, we say sex positive, we say sex education. I know that going to a doctor and talking about this would be very difficult for a straight person. But I know many doctors who don't know about this or gave the explanation of, well, I need to research this before I can prescribe it, because you do need a prescription for this. So, as I look, what PrEP stands for is pre-exposure, I'm going to try this word, prophylaxis. Gotta love that one. And again, it's an HIV preventative. It's very widely used in the gay and bi male community. Obviously, that's where HIV is most transmitted. But so many people haven't even heard of this. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it sounds like something that, I read in a gay magazine or a gay weekly or something like that. And I feel like this should be like on CNN. We found the ability to beat HIV.
Right.
To stop the transmission of it. We can knock this out. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. So I was constantly told by teachers and friends and, parents, if you have sex, there's a chance you're going to get AIDS and then you're going to die. And of course, the moment I started college, Freddie Mercury dies. And I went, oh my God. So it was the fear of it. And at the time, I was heterosexual. I consider myself heterosexual. But still, the concept of dying for sex was so front in my mind. Mm-hmm. And it has definitely changed a lot. I'm definitely promoting safe sex. Mm-hmm. But so many STDs are now treatable and or preventable. Even something like HPV, which I know from my generation, a lot of people have HPV. It is very prevalent. You don't know until you have a breakout. Mm-hmm. The only time a woman would know is basically it can grow warts, but it can grow on the cervix. And eventually now they say it can cause cancer. But now for teenagers, young teens, there is a vaccination against this.
Right.
So I'm very glad it's progressive, that treatment of STDs. It's how would I put it? It's preventative, which is great, as opposed to reactive.
Right.
The fact that there's now a public movement to get your teenager, to treat him and vaccinate him against an STD, it's one of, to me, it kind of sounds like a way of, okay, by getting your child, vaccinated against this, at least you're acknowledging my child will have sex one day. So things are sort of easing up.
Right, but I guess it's the whole acknowledgement of kids are going to have sex no matter what. There's no way that you're going to stop them from having sex. And get your head out of the ground like an ostrich. They talk about it. They share videos. They're even silly kids are sharing Snapchats of nudities of each other's. It's like, oh yeah, great, it gets deleted. I'm like, no, it doesn't, because they could save the photos. And that's what it is. And that does not fall under sex positive parenting. You have to be proactive. You have to find every teachable moment to talk to your kids about sex. Doesn't matter when. Doesn't matter at what age. I mean, you could be watching, a cartoon movie and just say, how do you think that made that person feel? Again, it doesn't have to be a sex action. It just has to be like butterflies in my stomach. Oh, I see how they fell in love. And, I always like, Kevin from the Minions, who falls in love with, forgot the girl's name, Gru's girlfriend there. It's just like all like bubbles and things, How does that make you feel? Do you have a little friend at school that you feel, and that's teaching them to get connected with their emotions and know that it's okay to have feelings and just respect one another and ask for consent. Not just go ahead, wham bam, thank you, man, and skip everything else.
Absolutely. And it's, I think for most of us, there was the talk, and I'm actually holding my fingers up and doing that air quote thing, where we were sat down. Initially, we thought we were being punished for something we didn't know what we did, and we had a talk that was either confusing, was definitely awkward, and probably embarrassing too. And it doesn't have to be like that. It can just be, you watch a PG-13 movie. There may be a nipple popping out here or there. I'm amazed that gets under 13. But, you don't run, preferably, you don't go ahead and grab your hand and immediately shove it over his eyes in a violent fashion where it feels like he's getting slapped in the, your child's getting slapped in the head. But talk to them about it. Sex is everywhere. I mean, it's in relationships, it's on TV, it's talked about in the radio. I see 12-year-olds dancing to songs talking about sex. And you kind of sit there going, I know you like the melody, but you don't know what the song means. And I think we're all guilty of it. But the point is, the more we go ahead and shove sex in the closet, I always thought it as, that cookie jar. The moment you go ahead and look in the cookie jar and then look at the child and let him know, or you put the cookies in the jar and you put it, and then you tell them, don't touch this, what's the first thing they're going to do?
Of course they're going to touch it.
They touch it.
It's like everything like that.
It's human nature to do what's taboo. Okay?
Yeah, pushing the limits there.
We have the same thing in this country at drinking. At 20, okay, you're 21. Before this, it was illegal. Now go ahead, you could drink whatever you want. And yeah, the most drinking occurs at the 22, 23, years old. And then as you get older, that thrill, that for most people anyway, without a medical condition, it goes away. It goes away. So, going ahead and telling your child over and over again, no sex, no sex, no sex, then here's 18, you're out of the house, good luck. It's
come on, not even out of the house. Just when even in the house, they'll go and sneak out. If mom and dad's not around, guess what? Hey, come on over, let's have some. And my sex talk wasn't really that, like, sit down, here you go. It's like, no, you're not doing this. That's all. It wasn't like explaining to me about sex. Also with puberty, trying to explain, your body changes. It was one of those humiliating things because I wasn't really prepared. And I had a lot of my schoolmates, I'm not even saying friends, just ridicule me and humiliated me because I really didn't understand what they were talking about because my parents never sat down and had that conversation with me. So body changes and everything. So it is crazy, but people have to also realize if you're not comfortable talking about sex, your kids will not come up to you and talk about sex because they could smell fear. Don't lie to me. You've seen it. You've seen how some kids are just like, oh, you don't know what you're in for, baby.
So, sex positive is really, it's in our life. It goes through all ages. If we can, we need to be sex positive to our children. We need to start them off right. We don't want to go ahead and make it the cookie jar, and then they go do it behind our backs. It it goes on from there. Obviously, let's see. I'm going back to my list here because I got a little tongue tied there. But sex is a good, healthy part of life. Obviously, being sex positive, we're concerned about health. We're concerned about safe sex. I found a list of things that were definitely put as not sex positive. And they actually went as far as calling it sex negative. And it's another buzz term we hear all the time, slut shaming.
Oh, yeah.
Now, slut shaming obviously is the degrading of man or woman for having sex. Or having sex with multiple partners or anything like that. And I think we more, it's definitely that mixed attitude in society, much harsher towards women than men. Mm-hmm. Of who's the slut. Right. I was still raised into the, a guy has sex with 4 women, 5 women, or, has a threesome. It's, a woman has a threesome, and it's you slut. And I'm like, well, even at a young age, when I, first heard that, 17, 18, whatever it was.
You're a stud. You had sex with how many women? Oh, yeah, that's right. She's a slut. She sleeps with everybody.
Well, my whole thought of that was, I wanted to get both of their fathers in the room and be like, okay, one's happy, one's really not happy. Let's get them talking. So, all right. So we've covered that. We've covered consent. We've covered porn. We've covered, what else have we done tonight? We've kept the sex positive, but we've kind of covered a lot here. Intimacy, relationships, different lifestyles, sex and masturbation. That was one of the weirdest things. I got many Facebook posts, but I get some really strange ones sometimes. And I got a post and just had a picture on it of a little boy who's sad. And someone made this little, what are they called?
Emojis?
No, not an emoji.
Or the Bitmojis?
No. The one we always mispronounce, where we take a picture and put words on it.
Oh, memes.
Memes, not mimes, memes.
Memes, yes.
And it basically said, if you masturbate, you're going to hell. Which, of course, I got to give it a laugh and a chuckle. Masturbation is self-practice. It's also self-satisfying, and it's also the best safe sex you can have. Mm-hmm. But whether it's masturbation to orgasm or masturbation, I don't know if it would be accidental, but it's a natural part of exploring your own body. And to become mature, to become self-aware, to become sexually aware, the kind of masturbation is almost a requirement.
It is a requirement because how are you supposed to tell your partner what you like or dislike there? And there's more than the missionary position during sex. I'm sorry, and that's what a lot of people just know because that's what they've seen on TV or media.
Yes. Getting your what is it? Sexual education from ABC Family is not a good thing. There's a lot more out there. But no, I've had someone tell me who was I went to college with, and they were a virgin, and after they had sex, they literally said something to me of the effect, because it didn't work out so well for them. You know, first time is never going to be your best. But the comment she made, which I will always remember, was, I liked it better when it was in the soaps. When they get naked, they get in bed, it fades out, and then when it fades back in, everyone's smiling. Because in between there, she had no education. That was it. She didn't watch porn. This is before the internet. And her education was from watching, soap operas and stuff like that.
Right.
And in every soap opera, in every PG movie, what happens? They look in each other's eyes, they make some smiles, they lay in bed, the covers come up, it fades out. Next thing you know, they're smoking a cigarette, laying down, saying everything was wonderful. Well, something happened between those scenes that, you couldn't show on TV in the 80s or 90s, but there was definitely more to it. And to have the education end there was probably horrifying for her, having sex for the first time, not knowing what to do.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Ew. See, at least I was blessed with the circle of friends that I have. But at the same time, I learned how to be a mistress. I learned how to be a sugar baby. I also learned the girlfriend experience. So yeah, it tells you what kind of friends I had.
And then you met me.
Oh, yes. But I met you 20 years later there. So there's a difference, It's like... But even that, when we first met, the differences was very left and right. And even today, we've been together for almost 7 years. It's still like, what do you mean you haven't done that? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, okay, I have to shut up now.
You did lead a very, we'll say,
promiscuous,
wild and privileged to an extent childhood. Which
sexually childhood, yeah. But not kids. Teenage, I don't know. Youth.
We'll say youth. Stop
youth.
There.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that we do have that I definitely value, and it continually grows, is our communication. And this is something that will, in any relationship, what's that term? Weave and weigh, ebb and flow. But for any relationship or any sexual partner, if you can't express to them and you're not comfortable talking about what you like, then you're never really going to get satisfied with it. You're going to be getting what they do for you. Kind of like if you go to a restaurant and, instead of looking through the menu, you hand it to your, your relationship, your partner, and say, order for me. That's essentially sexually what you're doing. You're leaving it up to them. Sex is very important. Communication is very important in sex. Letting you know, well, first you need to know what you like and what you don't like, and then you need to be able to express it. And the truth is, your partner may or may not be into what you're into, but you find a common ground of what you both enjoy, and that's obviously the relationship there.
But also, you can't make the assumption based on previous experiences both have had and not mention it. Because even as years go by, if you're with the same partner, it's like food-wise. Appetites change. Tastes change.
Absolutely.
And you have to be willing to express that and not just say, okay, well, last year they didn't like this. Maybe there was an interest. Maybe there was a conversation. You don't know what might spark. Limits or things. It's always the constant evolving conversation. And go back to it. And don't ever make an ass out of you and them by assuming that they don't want this or they don't like that because of a certain reaction or things. Talk about it. Talk about why. It's like when you're punishing a kid. We grew up with, because I said so. That is, you bleep, 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 bleep. No, I don't. So we make a conscious effort to our child and we explain why we don't, why you're not doing this, why you're not because I said so, because I hated that growing up. I refused to tell her that, even when I'm so angry and mad and just want to use that line. I'm like, no, I have to logically explain why.
Well, it gets you respect from the first thing, at least telling the child why or telling your partner why. So I guess obviously where we're headed is communication is key, whether, parent to child, spouse to spouse, relationship to relationship. It's what's gonna make things better. Hiding stuff in the closet, and it is sometimes hard to share your fantasies. Usually, it takes us time to do that. If you're if you're ashamed of something, most likely it's from family or social upbringing, and it could be, let's say, you're anything from spanking or anal or it doesn't have to be super out of the ordinary, like you want to be covered in grape jelly while listening to Italian opera and having someone go down on you. It could just be being spanked. Mm-hmm. And bringing this up to your partner, most people have a fear, or I'm not going to say most, some people have definitely a fear of having a partner who goes, "Oh, you freak." Because that's something you never want to hear. You never want to be
judged
so harshly.
Yeah.
Okay? And if your partner does come up to you and says, "Hey, what do you think about," and I'm just going to throw a weird one out there, golden showers. You might be, I know what it is. Really not something I want to try. It's that positive reaction of, okay, it's something you like. It's beyond what I'm capable of. And there is, just because your partner's into something doesn't mean you have to be, but have the conversation of it.
And then just have the respect that that's their choice. That's what they prefer. So, not even like judging them or turning your nose up and say, "Ew, what the hell," kind of deal. And that loses the respect and the trust between your relationship. And if you don't have that, then guess what? You have jack shit. It's like moving on. And sometimes it is difficult for people to move on or change, but you have to come first. You got to make yourself a priority. Know what your boundaries are. Know your limits. Know what you want, and not to be afraid to communicate. That is the biggest challenge across the board I have with people that are not able to communicate their wants, needs, or desires. Because they're afraid of judgment, they're afraid of, whatever insecurity they may have for, either family, religious purposes, society. Because of that, we have so much pressure from outside influences that we're not able to know what we want to do sexually. And sometimes that also rolls over to career-wise. I mean, growing up, our parents were taught that you go with a company, you stay there until you die because they have benefits, they have pension, they have loyalty, they have all this. Nowadays, you'd be lucky to stay at the same job for 2 years. There's no such thing as company loyalty. There's no such thing as pension. And the way the government's going, and no such thing as Social Security. But you need to figure out a way how to take care of yourself and move forward.
Definitely taking care of yourself. Part of being sex positive is being healthy. And I have to say this, no one likes a martyr. There is no point, because being a martyr just leads to sadness, guilt, and anger. And really, there is no place for that in the sexual realm. Sex should be a healthy, positive thing. It should be enjoyable, both emotionally and physically, and that type of emotion just really brings us down. But we're coming up to the end of our show here. Mm-hmm. I hope everyone has enjoyed our broadcast. Again, this is our first live broadcast, and we've tried it with a chat room. Unfortunately, we haven't had any participants, but we will be doing this again. We will be promoting this some more, mm-hmm. and we're not going to stop.
Yep.
So thank you very much for listening in. Until next time, my name is John C. Luna.
I'm Angelique Luna, and you could follow us on Facebook, Living a Sex Positive Life, where you could also drop messages and comments and requests of topics that you'd like to discuss.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, definitely. And, it could be anonymous. You could call in, or you could just say, hey, I'm curious about this, and we'll be more than happy to help you guys out.
Hopefully by the next show, we'll have our number set up for Skype so we can actually take phone calls.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we would totally appreciate it if you like the podcast on Spreaker. Share it with your followers on Twitter, Facebook, all that fun social media. And that way we'll have more shows. And thank you for listening. Have a good night, guys.
Goodbye.
Later days. Bye.